Okay, I would like to call, is that right, Joseph Dryling?
Candidate number one?
Yeah.
Want me to go get
Yes.
candidate number one?
So we have to have a motion.
Hi.
I would like to have a motion to accept the application of Joe Dryling. Can I have a
So moved.
Second.
roll call?
Dr. Hyde?
Aye.
Mrs. Quintana?
Aye.
Mr. Rolla?
Aye.
Mr. Thomas?
Aye.
So, Dave?
Let me go ahead. Good afternoon, Mr. Dryling. I want to say thank you for applying and caring about our district. And a lot of people like to say they care, but they don't apply when the situation's there, and I appreciate your wanting to apply for this position.
Thank you.
My first question to you, sir, will be, why do you want the position of board member in this district?
Well, I attended Adams 14 schools, and I know many alumni who are currently in or have previously, held professional positions. I believe, as they do, that the boards of education support the following: ensure a safe environment for teachers, staff, and students, promote from within, further education for teachers and staff. My priorities, not necessarily in this order, are to increase the communication, successful leadership, establish educational goals, successful relationships with teachers and staffs, increase our grants and review our budgets, employee benefits and compensation, and community involvement.
Okay, second will be, describe the board's role as it relates to the superintendent's role in the district.
The Board of Education and Superintendent each have their distinct duties. The Board of Education is to set the goals and priorities for the district, and the superintendent should see that those goals and priorities are put into motion and accomplished. The superintendent is a person who is not only a leader, but is fair and honest in all his dealings with all who he comes in contact with. I believe he should not be a micromanager. Okay. We have managers that facilitate his instructions for him.
Thank you. I would like to ask you, what would you intend that your major contribution be as a board member in the school district?
I like to continue the strategic planning for the future of the district and the school board. Ensure that I make myself available to listen and assist all who seek the board's help or guidance. Teacher retention is a problem in all the districts, whether it be from budget cuts or voluntarily resignation. But I feel in our district it's not because of salary or benefit issues, but rather more of support and communication problems. Teachers do not want to work or stay in the district that does not look out for them. They need to feel they have someone to help them with any problems, issues, or concerns. Empty promises serves no one. I would like to see the boards of education be more progressive and proactive instead of reactive in this area. Leadership starts with this board and the superintendent. And at times, we have appeared to be lacking in that area.
How much should the board seek out the views of teachers and other school employees?
I think to be transparent, I feel the board should seek views and input and views. Not everyone's going to agree with the board or the superintendent or even be happy how things are done, but everyone should have an opinion. We should have an objective evaluation system in place that will help this process along. Perhaps a system that periodically requests input, perception, or problem areas that need improvement or concerns. There is external factors such as staff does not feel safe at work, oversized classrooms, and there are other many concerns, etc.
Thank you.
I have two questions for you, Mr. Drilling. My first question is, what are your goals, aspirations, from a personal point of view?
I like to see these scores keep increasing, employee retention, communication, and transparency. In some of these areas, the Board of Education cannot be transparent, such as employee-related problems or discipline. However, we are not transparent enough when it comes to operations, budget, or cuts. Some employees feel not sharing knowledge is a power when in reality it's really a weakness.
All right. My next question, what legacy would you like to leave as a result of your time on the school board?
I like to see new schools being built or planning to be built, more community and business involvement in the school district. When I sat on the board last year for a year, I did and done my best without regret, and I didn't sacrifice my morals or ethics.
Thank you.
Mr. Dreiling, is there anything that you'd like to add to help us understand you better or your situation better?
I was appointed last year. I served approximately a year. I lost the election to you and Ms. Quintana. But I feel I'm impartial. The decisions I made were based on logic and facts. I understand the complex challenges that the district faces and exploring new ways how we can be successful as a team. A district cannot be successful when staff is told not to talk to the boards of education. The board should be a helpmate, not the enemy. I hear frustrations at board meetings when questions are not answered or concerns are not addressed. And I'd like to see that changed. And I know when I was on the board, we started that process with comment question cards, but when someone's up here on the podium, they want a question answered today, not 2 weeks from today. We should have a lot of those answers to those questions already done. In my opinion, we underachieve in that area. So that's really all I have.
Okay, great. And do you have any questions for us?
No, sir, I do not. Thank you for your time.
Discussion.
Any discussion?
Yes, I have one question. Have you been a registered voter in Adams 14 School District for 12 consecutive months?
Yes, sir, I have.
Thank you. Number two, that's it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Q. Thank you, board.
Thank you, Joe.
I would like a motion to accept the nomination of Angela Vizzi. Can I have a motion?
Accept the application?
Yeah, application. So he moved.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call?
Aye.
Mrs. Quintana?
Aye.
Mr. Rolla?
Aye.
Mr. Thomas?
Aye.
Dave?
Okay, I would just like to thank you for applying for this position. And it takes a lot of time out of your days, but it takes a lot of hard work, and I appreciate you wanting to be part of the board.
Thank you.
My first question to you will be, why do you want the position of board member in this district?
I think I would like to be a part of a team that is going to foster change, positive social change, and implement structures and be a part of the district as far as helping promote the things that need to happen to make sure everything, students, teachers, staff, district as a whole are successful.
Thank you. Number two, describe the board's role as it relates to the superintendent's role in the district.
Colorado statutes do not specify any specific roles of a superintendent. However, that is the board's role with regard to assigning a superintendent who can handle district affairs. With regard to what the superintendent's role is specifically, that would be detailed within his contract, his or her contract. But basically, you oversee the superintendent's role as it relates to district affairs.
Thank you.
Okay. What would you intend that your major contribution would be to the school board as a member?
An additional voice in a team that promotes positive social changes within the district, contributions, particularly with policy change, budgetary reviews, constructive criticisms within a respectful and manner. I think those could be my major contributions.
Okay. How much should the board seek out the views of teachers and other school employees?
Often and regularly. As you might remember, my presentation with regard to teacher recruitment and retention, I actually proposed a policy that implemented more teacher and staff voices to be heard. In addition to that, I think the board should also seek out student views.
Thank you.
Ms. Vizzi, I'm gonna ask you two questions. My first question is, what are your goals, aspirations, from a personal point of view?
My goals and aspirations from a personal view are to positively impact individuals' lives. I want to make sure that any position or any place that I have chosen to be a part of, I walk away knowing that at least one person knows that I took the time to hear them and to speak with them, and that I changed their lives in a positive manner, both ethically and morally.
My last question, what legacy would you like to leave as a result of your time on the school board?
Again, I think it's tied into my response on 5. I just want to be able to positively impact individuals, students, and the community to where they know that there was a person that could listen to them and hear them and took that time.
Thank you.
Is there anything you'd like to add to what you've said to help us understand you better?
No, I don't.
No? Okay, what questions do you have for us?
I don't have any.
I have one last question for you, please.
Sure.
Have you been a registered voter in Adams 14 School District for 12 consecutive months?
A registered voter here? I have not.
Thank you.
Would you repeat your answer, please?
No, I have not.
Okay, I didn't hear you the first time.
Or
Thank you.
I might have been when I did my driver's license, they asked you that, but I don't believe that I am a registered voter in Adams 14.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And the next one is number 3, Cindy. I would like to have a motion to accept the application of Cynthia Myers. Can I have a motion?
Or what's that? So moved.
Second.
Roll call?
Dr. Hyde?
Aye.
Mrs. Quintana?
Aye.
Mr. Rolla?
Aye.
Mr. Thomas?
Aye.
May I say something before the questions do start? Yes, I am Cynthia Jane Sawyer Myers. I am pleased that the board accepted my application as a vacant seat. But at the moment, I'm going to withdraw my application so I can save you a little time. And I would
Okay,
stay it there.
thank you.
Sure.
Let me see.
If you have any
Jonathan-
questions.
Jonathan, do we need to do?
No.
Nope, okay. Thank you,
Okay,
Cindy.
you're welcome.
So I'd say thank you for applying.
Yes. Okay. like to have a motion to accept the application for Andrew LaCrue.
Second.
Roll call.
Dr. Hyde?
Aye.
Mrs. Quintana?
Aye.
Mr. Rolla?
Aye.
Mr. Thomas?
Aye.
Okay, I'd just like to thank you for applying for this position. I know it's a busy time during your life, but thanks for taking our students in hand here and applying. I will ask you two questions. And number one, why do you want the position of board member in this district?
Well, I got two students in this district currently. One will be an 8th grader at Kearney Middle School. One will be a 5th grader at Hanson Elementary. I got 8 cousins in this district in addition, and I got 3 cousins that just graduated high school. On top of that, my neighbors go to this district. The kids I coach go to this district. I currently work in education myself. I'm an administrator, dean of student services, and middle school athletic director at Knoll Community Arts Middle School in DPS. I currently work in education. And, I look at the board now, we got some former educators, and we got some individuals that serve this board because their hope is to help our children in this community. But the landscape of education has changed a lot. A lot of things going on in education. A lot of things that are going now that we as a district aren't doing. So I feel with me currently being in education and having students, kids, cousins, neighbors in this district, it is my duty to be on this board of education. Mr. Rolla, before I went off to college, you told me one thing, because I wasn't thinking about college. I was thinking about just staying home in Commerce City, with my friends. And Junior, go off, get your education, and come back and help your community. So that's why I'm here today, to come back, help my students, my neighbors, my kids, my cousins, and all the other students in this district get the best education they can.
Thank you. Number two, what would you intend that your major contribution?
No.
Oh, I'm sorry. Describe the board's role in its relation to the superintendent's role in the district.
In relation to the superintendent, I feel the superintendent works for us as the board. We are to set policies and have the superintendent pull forward what we like to see happen in this district. So he works for us. We sit on this board and we answer to the community. So it is our job to hold the superintendent accountable when things are not going right, when our district is not moving at a turnaround. It is our job to ask why. Why aren't things being done? So my job as a board member is to hold the superintendent accountable to make sure that he's making the best decisions possible, not only for our students, but for the teachers who give plenty of time to these kids who've been here for years, to make sure he's doing what's best for them.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Andrew, what would you intend that your major contribution would be as a board member in this district?
As mentioned, I'm currently a coach for kids here in the community. I coach for Commerce City Youth Athletics through the Commerce City Rec Center. I also was a former coach for CCYA and sat on their board. I sat on the Commerce City Parks and Recreation Golf Committee. I'm very visible in this community. As mentioned, I got cousins at various schools and at the high school. I talk to a lot of my parents. I get to know my parents. My parents for my teams are my stakeholders. I want these kids coming back and being involved in this community. I want my kids who their friends, when they go to high school, I want them to be proud to be a future Eagle. I want the kids who are going to Kearney to be proud to be a future Bobcat. I want the kids who are going to Adams City Middle to be proud to be a future Eaglet. And just by working in this community for the past 15, 16, 17 years, I've gotten to know a lot of my students and their families. And now a lot of my former students are having families. So I think that would be my contribution. We're giving this community some hope on this board.
Thank you. Oh. How much should the board seek out the views of teachers and other school employees?
Well, as mentioned, we only have 2 former educators on here and, some other vendors that work in other areas. They are the experts of what's going on in their building. They are the experts of what's going on with their kids' lives in their classrooms. Why not seek out? They know what's going on. We need to build that bridge with our teachers, repair that relationship with our teachers, and listen to what they say is going on in their building. Go in there and see it for ourselves as well. But our teachers and our school employees, any employee in this district, they know better than what we know on this board of what's going on within our buildings in Adams 14. So it is imperative that we listen to our teachers within the district.
Mr. LaCruz, I have 2 questions for you. Our first question is, what are your goals and aspirations from a personal point of view?
So my goals as an individual in life or for this board?
Both.
In life, I fell into education. I was in mental health until I started working with Adams 12. And my goal was to become a counselor, obtain my school counseling license, but all my background was in admin. So I just recently accomplished a goal of I received my alternative principal license. My ultimate goal now as a professional is I want to become the athletic director of Adams 14. There's a lot of programs within our community that we could be working with, we could be partnering with. We should be partnering with the city of Commerce City and youth sports and doing a lot more camps for the youth in our community, for CCYA, for the baseball teams. We should be getting our middle school students up at the building. Our middle school students should be looking clean, nice, and crisp when we go play athletes, go play other schools. So my goal is to be the athletic director of this district for a very long time, because we need someone who's here for these kids. As a board member, our district right now is hurting. And a lot of people tell me, why do you keep your kids there? This district was hurting when I came to school here. I ended up fine. It took me a while to get my degree. Actually, it took me 10 years to get my bachelor's degree. And a good friend told me, it doesn't say on your degree how long it took you. It says that you got it. So I went on and got my master's, which is a lot easier. I guess I put a little more effort into my graduate degree than I did my undergrad, but my goal in this position was to help this district get back to where it needs to be. So when these kids are proud to say, I graduated from Adams City High School.
Thank you. Next question. What legacy would you like to leave as a result of your time on the school board?
This isn't about me. This is bigger than me. This is about the students of this community, the parents of this community. But I'll answer the question. And I think what my legacy to be is that school board member, Mr. LaCruz, listened to us. He listened to us. He allowed us to share what issues we have with the district. And instead of running away from us, he listened to us, he listened to our students, and he listened to the teachers of this district.
Thank you.
Mr. LaCrue, is there anything that you'd like to add that would help us understand your situation better?
My situation,
Or just to understand you?
you know, I graduated from this high school from this district in 1998. And I went off to college, but it wasn't, I had no one in my family who went to college before I did. So it was pretty much like my dad was just dropped me. I was moving out of town because he didn't know much himself. That was the day of when we had to use calling cards to call home, you know. But that's one thing I always wanted to do, was come back and serve my community. And, you know, with two boys that are in middle school and a 3-year-old, I got a busy life, you know, but every decision I make is with an intent of how it will affect my kids. And by being on the school board, I can make sure that my kids are getting the best education, and the neighbors to the left of me are getting the best education, the neighbors to my right, and all the kids I serve in this community are getting the best education. You know, so this is my way of giving back to my community. So,
Thanks. And do you have any questions for us?
no, sir.
Thank you.
I have one last question for you, Mr. LaCrue. Have you been a registered voter in Adams 14 School District for 12 consecutive months?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I would like a motion to accept Dominick Moreno as a for the application of District 14. Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call?
Dr. Hyde?
Aye.
Mrs. Quintana?
Aye.
Mr. Rolla?
Aye.
Mr. Thomas?
Okay, Mr. Moreno, I'd like to thank you for applying for this position. I know you have a busy schedule as it is, and you're always out there campaigning, but thanks for taking an interest in this position. I will ask you 2 questions. The first one is, why do you want the position of board member in this district?
Thank you, Mr. Rolla, members of the Board of Education, Superintendent Abrego. Appreciate the opportunity to participate in this process. I'll just start with the obvious. It's unusual that I'm here in front of you. It's unusual for a legislator to apply for an open seat on the Board of Education. So I actually want to talk about what I'm not here tonight for. I'm not here because I think this district needs to be rescued. I'm not here because I'm planning on spying for the Colorado Department of Education. Those are not my motivations. I'm here because I think I have something to contribute. I grew up in this community. I went to all the public schools in this district. I got a good education in college, and I came home. And I want to use that experience and education and my skills and relationships to help the board. Education is the single most important issue in my life. It's why I'm standing here before you, not only as an applicant for the Board of Education, but as a state senator. because people in this community invested in me, and I have a debt to repay. And so I have been working for years now to contribute back to our community as a city councilman, as a state representative, as a state senator, and hopefully as a Board of Education member.
Thank you. Number 2, describes the board's role as it relates to the superintendent's role in the district.
So the superintendent is employed by the board, and the board evaluates the superintendent's performance and monitors the implementation of board policy by the superintendent. The board also works with the superintendent to establish a vision and direction for the district. The superintendent is the only employee that the board actually has oversight over. It's similar to a council-manager relationship when I was on the city council. This is the policy-making body, and you evaluate your employee according to their ability to carry out the policies that you've set forward. I think it's one of the most difficult issues is to figure out what's the board's responsibility as opposed to what the superintendent's responsibility is. And so much so that I know the Colorado Association of School Boards actually offers training on this very issue. It's tough to know your role, but the Board of Education is primarily the policy-making board, and then you evaluate the superintendent according to how he carries out those policies.
Thank you.
What would you intend that your major contributions would be as a board member in this school district?
So the major contributions that I think I offer to the Board of Education is not only knowledge of procedure. I've been in legislative office now for almost over 8 years, believe it or not, even despite being only 33 years old. And I've gotten very used to Robert's Rules of Order and how things work. So I think I would bring a knowledge of procedure. I do think I'd bring an ability to bridge any gaps between the school district and the Department of Education. I've worked with the Department of Education down at the state capitol. I have relationships there. And depending on how our school performance and district performance ratings come back, we may need to collaborate even more with the State Board of Education and the Colorado Department of Education. I think I bring valuable insight and relationships there that will help the district accomplish your goals. I also think I have a very good understanding of state law and particularly accountability statutes. I know the accountability law like the back of my hand because I know it's so important to this district. And so I've made it one of my missions to know everything about the accountability clock and the accountability law. And I think that could come in useful for the board as well.
Next question. How much should the board seek out the views of teachers and other school employees?
So I do think it's really important that the board listen. You are a policy-making body. Those policies should represent feedback that you get from the community and from your employees. Right now, the district is dealing with high turnover. I think it's important that everyone feel listened to, that they feel valued and supported by the district. But I would also point out that although it's important to listen, any action that comes as a result of that listening should follow proper channels. We have a hierarchy in this district, and it's important that we adhere to those policies and procedures in implementing any change that's proposed.
Thank you.
Mr. Moreno, I have 2 questions for you. First question is, what are your goals, aspirations from a personal point of view for the district?
So I decided some time ago that I was going to dedicate my life to service. The Jesuits, I think, really did a job on me when I went to college. That's what they espouse, social justice and service. My personal goals and aspirations is simply to give back to this community, to contribute my education, my skills, my experience to helping this community. That's really only ever been my goal.
My next question, Mr. Moreno. What legacy would you like to leave as a result of your time on the school board?
Well, I guess I would start out by saying I'm not really big into legacies. I think if you really want a legacy, you have to have a little bit of an ego, and that's just not something that I maybe was born with. Maybe my mom dropped me on my head a couple too many times, and I lost that aspect of my personality. If I wanted any legacy, it would be for people to say that I did my job well, that I listened to them, that I always got back to people when they reached out to me, and that I made tough but fair decisions.
Thank you. Dr. Hyde.
Senator Moreno, is there anything else that you'd like to add that would help us understand you better?
Thank you, Dr. Hyde. I guess the only things that I would add is in my legislative career, the policies, the bills that I've introduced down at the Capitol have always been informed by the good work that we're already doing in this community. My goal is to lift this community up. So when I introduced breakfast after the bell down at the state capitol, it's because it was a practice that was already going on in this district, and I wanted to export it statewide. When I worked on the seal of biliteracy down at the Capitol, it's because of the work that this district was already doing and making sure that every high school senior had an endorsement that they could carry with them to colleges or to employers to show that I have more skills than are readily seen on my transcript. When I introduced a bill in the House to determine what does removing a district or a school's accreditation mean, I ran a bill that said that loss of accreditation can't be used against kids, can't be used as a denial for college admission or for scholarships, and it passed the House with bipartisan support. Unfortunately, didn't survive the Senate. And then most recently, a bill that I carried this last session, House Bill 1355, which made changes to the state's accountability system. And again, it sought to incorporate what Adams 14 is already doing. Said in the third year of your accountability clock, you should have public meetings, much like the superintendent forums that are already being held with parents and community members. That legislation was developed, and the Colorado Department of Education came and asked me to sponsor that bill because they know how much I've invested in researching our accountability law, that I know the issues surrounding that. And the reason that bill came forward was actually not even in any way dealing with Adams 14. It was another school district that got off the accountability clock and then stopped all their progress altogether. Stopped working towards what they needed to because they were off the clock and they had another 5 years. The changes that we made to the accountability clock in that bill really make sure that the growth that we're all aspiring to is long-term and sustainable. That you don't just reach the clock, you don't just get off the clock for a year and then you stop everything, that you actually make sure you maintain the progress that you're already working towards. So that's what that bill does now, going into the future. So I guess that's what I hope you understand, is that every policy, every bill I've introduced has always been about lifting this community up, about recognizing the good that we do.
And then, do you have any questions for us?
I guess the one question I would have is, I'm curious, what do you think you're missing? What are you looking for in a member of the board that will help you succeed as a board?
Since I asked the question, I suppose I should be the first to attempt an answer. I think we need someone who is open-minded, someone who is, can be logical and objective in evaluating situations, all with the ultimate objective of helping the kids do better. And that will take quite a bit of effort.
I guess I'll go next, since it turned around a Q&A. For myself, I think it's more important accountability for both sides of for ourselves and the district. I think accountability is more important to me than anything. Holding myself, holding every individual on my left and right accountable to make sure that we can make sure that things get done correctly and responsible. That's what I look at, accountability.
And I would like to make, I would say, someone to work with the board as a team, not as an individual, but as a team, so we can focus, what we're supposed to be focusing on is the students. And that's what I'm looking for in a member here, somebody where we could work together. We're going to have differences, but if we can come together as a team and see where we're going. So that's what I would like.
Just like you did what Connie was saying, I think we have to get back together and work as a team. And I know we've been accused of being too doggone old, that we should be out in the pasture somewhere. But as I've stated to many of my students, you're never too old to learn. And I think with you or the other young ones, if you're appointed on the board, is that you're bringing new ideas to us, and that we can learn from those ideas that maybe will bring us back to a unity board so we can start making the right decisions for our students and for our staff, so we can be to when you were at Adams City High School back in the 20th century. That kind of sounds old now, but it's better than the 19th century. But again, back in the 20th century, and as you remember, we did have many years, and new ideas never hurt us, and it never hurts to keep learning. So thank you for applying. And
Thank you.
I have one last question for you, Mr. Moreno. Have you been a registered voter in Adams 14 School District 12 consecutive months, please?
God, I hope so. Yes, I have. Yeah.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
thank you, Doug.
Yes.
Take a 5-minute break.
If they want to be here.
Can we
Okay,
take a 5-minute break?
5-minute break.